All right, so Intel, huh? Big tech, big rumors, and maybe a big opportunity. People want to know if Intel is about to be the next big takeover target. And honestly, after digging into this Investopedia analysis, things are getting interesting.
They just dropped this on September 22nd, 2024, so it's fresh off the presses. And, they're pulling from heavy hitters like Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal, so it's not just speculation, it's built on something.
Yeah, and the first thing that jumps out is this double bottom pattern they're seeing with Intel's stock. Honestly, when I hear double bottom, I think stock market horror movie. But you're telling me this could actually be a good thing.
Oh, it's more of a thriller than horror, trust me. Picture this on the stock chart. A dip, a little bounce back, then another dip at roughly the same level. That's your double bottom. What it often means is the big sell-off, it might be losing steam. Investors might be seeing a buying opportunity here.
So not a crash landing, more like a slingshot, maybe. Which, for someone wondering if Intel's poised for a comeback, that's got to be intriguing.
Exactly. And here's the thing. The RSI, that's the relative strength index, it measures how strong the price move is, right? Well, it didn't tank along with the price, like tapping the brakes, not slamming them.
See, even I understand that. People weren't panicking, dumping their Intel stock despite the dips. There's hesitation. Like, maybe some see what others don't.
And that hesitation, it makes this next part juicy. Remember the rumors about Qualcomm potentially sniffing around, thinking about acquiring Intel? Can't ignore that in the context of this whole stock pattern thing.
Okay, let's talk Qualcomm, because that's straight out of Wall Street drama, right? We're not talking some small investment. We're talking full-on acquisition, an identity shift for Intel.
Exactly. Imagine, say, your favorite indie coffee shop, suddenly it's bought out by, I don't know, a giant energy drink company, whole vibe changes. That's Intel if Qualcomm takes over. And then we've got Apollo Global Management. They're playing it cooler, offering a $5 billion investment.
$5 billion, huh? That's what, like a parking ticket for some of these giant companies?
Yeah.
What's Apollo hoping to get out of this little investment? And how does that even compare to Qualcomm coming in and taking over the whole show?
$1 million question, right? It's a totally different ballgame. With Apollo, it's more like a strategic partnership. They're giving Intel some breathing room, some cash to play with so they can, pursue their own comeback strategy. Qualcomm, though, that's like assimilation, absorbing Intel into their own thing entirely.
So, like, team up with a powerful buddy or get swallowed whole by a corporate behemoth. No pressure, Intel. Though, honestly, I wouldn't want to be in Pat Gelsinger's shoes right now. Talk about a high-stakes game to be playing as Intel's CEO. Turnaround strategy. What turnaround strategy will you get these giants circling?
And that's what makes this whole "is Intel about to be taken over" question so interesting. Does Qualcomm swooping in validate Gelsinger's attempts to turn things around? Or is it more like, well, they were going under anyway?
Ooh, good point. This isn't just numbers on a screen. It's people, it's careers, it's high drama. Speaking of, we got to talk about these price points Investopedia threw out. $22, $25, $30, even $35. Those aren't just like randomly generated, right?
Not at all. Think of them like landmarks on a map. They tell us where the stock might go based on, well, where it's been and the currents pushing it along. Remember that double bottom pattern?
Please tell me you're not going to make me draw it again.
No drawing, I promise. But that $22 mark, just above where the stock's been closing lately and right around that double bottom neckline.
So busting through $22, that's like breaking free, signaling Intel's back, baby, or something.
Exactly. And then we're looking at $25. That lines up with a trend line connecting those lows we saw back in late 22, early 23.
Past lows, fueling the climb to new highs. Okay, I'm following. So what are we getting greedy now? What about those higher numbers?
Well, around $30, things get interesting. Some investors who bought in during those dips back in August, September, they might be tempted to cash out, take their profits, and run.
Classic dilemma, right? Take the win or hold on tight and see if it climbs higher. Gives me a headache just thinking about it.
Wow.
What's the next stop on this roller coaster?
$35. And that, my friend, that's a big one. Major resistance point, going back to how the stock was moving in June, July. Plus, it lines up with this thing, the 50% Fibonacci retracement level, which...
Hold up. Fibonacci retracement. You're going to have to break that one down for me. Sounds like some Da Vinci Code stuff.
Okay, less Da Vinci Code, more like support beams holding up a building. Fibonacci levels tell us where the price might stabilize, on the way up or down. It's based on this naturally occurring sequence in math. It's kind of wild.
So like hidden clues in the market's architecture. Okay, I'm into it. But how does any of this help me or anyone listening figure out what to do with Intel?
Now that's the question. We've got all this fascinating analysis, but it's not a crystal ball, right? It's about understanding what we're seeing so you can make an informed decision.
Exactly. So far, we've got this maybe double bottom, an RSI that's hinting there might be buyers lurking, these price targets, plus Qualcomm and Apollo waiting in the wings. It's like we've walked onto the set of a Wall Street thriller, and we don't know how it ends.
And just like a good thriller, the ending is still up in the air. But what we know for sure is Intel's at a crossroads. And whatever happens in the next few weeks, few months, it's going to be big.
So someone's listening to this, right? They're hearing all this talk about Intel, about takeovers, about charts and numbers. What's the takeaway for them?
Well, remember back at the beginning when we were talking about Intel maybe being the next big takeover target? We've uncovered some pretty interesting clues here, haven't we?
Yeah, the stock's doing some pretty intriguing stuff. This possible double bottom, the RSI hinting at buyer interest, and those price targets. Those are like signposts pointing to where this whole thing might go. Plus, you've got Qualcomm and Apollo lurking in the background, each with their own game plan.
Right. And what I find really interesting is how those outside forces connect back to what's happening inside Intel. You know, Pat Gelsinger and his whole turnaround strategy, the company trying to innovate, those are all things you got to factor in when you're looking at this situation.
It's not just about some abstract deal or no deal game show, right? It's about you, the listener, and how you see Intel. Is it a good investment? Is it a company on the rise?
A
Or
company about to get gobbled up by something bigger. That's the question, isn't it?
exactly. This deep dive, it's given everyone some context, but the real analysis, that starts now. What do you make of all this?
What's your gut telling you?
You see a comeback story, maybe even a big one. Or do you see a company ripe for the taking?
Maybe you see a chance to get in early, especially if those price points we were talking about, if they start to come into play.
Big if, but hey, that's the market for you, right?
Always unpredictable.
That's why we love it. But listen, folks, this Investopedia article, it's just one piece of the puzzle.
One perspective. Don't stop here.
Put on your detective hats. Check out the sources they mentioned, see what other analysts are saying, maybe even take a peek at Intel's own financial reports.
Get your hands dirty with it.
This is where the real fun begins. We've given you the map, but you get to choose where to explore. That's what this deep dive is all about.